All right, good afternoon. It's Wolfgang Krosky, CEO of the Pittsburg Chamber of Commerce, and this is a continuation of our interview series where we are interviewing candidates that are running for office for County Supervisor, District 5. We also had earlier this morning Assemblyman Tim Grayson, who's running for State Senate, District 9. And this is a unbiased interview, more of a conversational style, so to speak, where we're just getting to know candidates, letting them talk a little bit about their background, what they've accomplished, and what their plans are if elected. Right now, we have the benefit of hearing from Mike Barbanica, who is currently a councilman in Antioch. He does have roots here in Pittsburgh, which I'm sure he will talk about. But with that, Mike, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about how you've gotten to where you are so far.
Great. Well, thank you for having me. My name is Mike Barbanica. I'm running for County Supervisor District 5. As Wolfgang said, I'm currently on City Council in an elected position, and I am looking forward to the change that's coming. At the end of this year, voters are going to have a decision to make. Well, the first decision is going to be in March, the first week in March, where we have the primary. The top two vote getters are going to move forward, unless somebody gets 50 plus one, are going to move forward to the November election and that'll be the runoff in the general election. So a little bit of background about myself. I grew up locally. I lived in Antioch, Pittsburgh, pretty much my entire life. Moved to this area when I was 2 years old. I have 3 kids, 5 grandkids. My kids are all into public service. My oldest daughter is a PA. My son is a Pittsburgh police officer and actually works my old beat. I retired from the Pittsburgh Police Department. And my youngest daughter is a deputy district attorney in another county. So family is very much into public service. My wife and I met while I was working for the police department. She was a summer intern at the police department. She grew up in Pittsburgh. She was born on School Street, grew up in Pittsburgh. She's from the Costanza family in this city. And we've been together about 35 years. So I'm very much looking forward to it. Career-wise, I started with the city of Pittsburgh as a volunteer in 1985 as a police cadet, and then became a paid reserve officer in a full-time status. And then I was sent to the academy very shortly thereafter and became a full-time police officer. I did a 21-year career. I was injured. Fell off a second-story building and sustained an injury, and that's why ultimately I retired. But I was fortunate enough to be able to work the different assignments for the police department, including patrol, canine, traffic, detectives, where I was a sexual assault detective and a homicide detective, and then a street-level narcotics team for 6 years that I ran as a sergeant. Had originally become after a detective, became a corporal and then a sergeant and then ultimately a lieutenant, and then filled in as an acting bureau commander to take over one of the bureaus and retired after 21 years. I am a small business owner locally, so I understand small business and opened my business right as I was retiring. My wife and I still run that company today. Right now with this campaign, pretty much my wife is running the day-to-day operations, and she and I talk every day, but she's doing a fantastic job with that. And it's allowing me to focus full-time on this campaign. So I'm very interested in this conversation. When Wolfgang called me and said, "Hey, would you like to do this?" I said, absolutely. I would love for the residents locally here to hear my message and be able to hopefully meet many more of you. So let's take it away.
Yeah, so unpack a little bit about that. You have a career in law enforcement here in Pittsburgh. So in that time, without getting into too many details, did you ever have opportunity to interact with the county or county government or even supervisors in general? I mean,
I did. And in a police department, the higher up in rank that you go, the more you interact with the political side of things. So as a lieutenant and as a bureau commander, you were interacting with the council on a regular basis. And then at times, limited board of supervisors, but there were times that we would deal with the board of supervisors, mainly local governments, local city governments. And again, when you go from being a sergeant to a lieutenant to a bureau commander, then ultimately you're going to deal with more and more the mayor and city council members and the different departments throughout the city, including Chamber of Commerce. I was very fortunate to be several years put in charge of running the seafood festival, the police department side of the seafood festival. So not the entire operation, but the police involvement. And that was rewarding. I got to meet so many people from the community, business owners, chamber members, and it worked out very well.
So, and the reason I bring that up, because having that experience and then the experience as a small business owner currently, you kind of see the county through multiple lenses, and not every candidate has that opportunity. So having those multiple lenses, how's that, do you think, going to benefit you if elected as supervisor?
So it's a huge benefit, and I'm glad you brought that up. The thing, if you look at it, you're working from a police perspective, and you start to see the city very different and the county very different. You deal with the sheriff's department quite a bit. You deal with the district attorney's office quite a bit, especially as a detective. You're doing outside investigations, so maybe you're doing something in conjunction with another police department or the sheriff's department, and then ultimately forming a small business and opening a small business. My business took several paths. So not only was I a local business, but I did international business as well, dealing with people in Canada, Costa Rica, Iceland, and in the United States. So I was very fortunate to be able to do that. I was brought down to Vegas to go speak at conventions on how to operate small businesses, how to generate more business within the business community, and I was very fortunate to be able to do those things.
Yeah, I think those experiences will be beneficial to, if elected, because a lot of times businesses, we just feel the constant pressure and, the thumb on our back from government.
Yes.
More regulations, more fees, more this, more
Yes.
that.
It's crippling to a business. It's absolutely crippling to a business. When you are taking a small business owner, people assume when somebody has a small business, automatically they're rich. That's not the case. You know that, I know that. It's just not the case. When you are running a company and you're having to make payroll, what the public doesn't often see is, and employees don't see, you're always the last one paid. You have to make payroll. You have to pay the bills. You have to keep the lights on. There's damage to equipment. There's all kinds of things that occur. And with that, you're always the last one paid. It's not this big pot of gold that a lot of folks think. And there's a lot of sleepless nights running a small business. So we need to support small business and realize that small business is truly the backbone of our local economy.
Yeah, absolutely. There's, in addition to the regulations that are coming on businesses, we also have the struggle with, our unhoused population.
Yes.
And first and foremost, they're human beings.
Mm-hmm.
There could be family members, and it's not just this number, right?
Right.
These are real people.
Yes.
That have different challenges. And I know I received a mailer from you, nice colorful one, and it had numbers and stats and plans to deal with the homeless, unhoused population. So what is the plan that you would like to carry out on that?
So my wife and I enacted this plan unbeknownst to us. We started this plan in 2007. I had retired from the police department. There was a Pittsburgh resident who half the family had come from Mexico, half the family grew up in Pittsburgh. And they were losing their home. And as a result of losing their home, they came to me and said, help us, please. And this person, one of the family members, is a personal friend of mine, still is. I was actually, just before walking in here, on the phone with him. He and I still talk every day. And so what I did when I retired is I had a small retirement set aside in a 403 or a 401k type situation. We rolled that out of that and bought them a place to live. That was our very first one. And they were a Pittsburgh family, still live in Pittsburgh. We found a little condo. They actually found it and called us and said, can we buy this? And they were losing their home. in town, in Pittsburg. And so my wife and I talked about it. We said, let's do that. So we rolled the money out, took the tax hit, and ended up purchasing this small condo. They lived in it for 2.5 years, and they got back on their feet, and now they're doing very, very well. Well, we put another family in there after they moved out, and this started to build and build and build. And what we ultimately realized is that there's many more families that are out there that need this help. So we started putting together partnerships with private landlords in the area through our business, partnerships with private landlords and housing families. And that now we work with 7 different either government or charity type organizations to help get people off the street. As of today, right now, with roofs, living in homes with roofs over their heads, we have 569 people off the street that are living in homes today. So we're very proud of that. We're shooting for 1,000 people. We're at 569 right now. I just got a call from the office that we housed somebody yesterday, so that number may be a little bit higher right now. But it's a goal of mine, and we can continue on that pathway and broaden that to a county level.
And what would that look like at a county level?
So at a county level, what I believe is we can involve potentially Measure X money to help out with this, and also have throughout the county, for example, Delta Landing. Mm-hmm. We have Delta Landing. I believe there's 178 rooms at Delta Landing. We could take Delta Landing, those folks there, and start partnering with local landlords to roll people out of Delta Landing, which is bridged housing that has wraparound services, and put them into longer term housing, partnering with these landlords.
And so funding would come from Measure X, and
well, funding a portion of it,
yeah,
could come from theoretically Measure X. Now, of course, when you're doing that and you're talking Measure X money, there's attorneys involved, and you have to get legal opinions and so on and so forth. So, what I see at this point is this is an idea. We're doing it now in our private business, and we have been since 2007. But what I see is bringing this to the table, and it will change forms many, many times. But ultimately, I do believe that we can partner on a larger scale with landlords because there's federal money available. So a lot of these properties that we're doing this and putting people into these homes are either HUD money or VA money. I was recently contacted by county housing, and they were struggling because the veterans, landlords didn't want to house the veterans. They couldn't figure out why. And I said, send me your contract. Let me read the contract. So I spent a couple days reading the contract and picking it apart. And we went back and said, well, we think you should change this around. And they took that document and went to HUD with it and got it approved. And it actually streamlined the way that we can actually get residents, veterans into homes. Having anybody living homeless is a terrible thing. However, when you're talking about veterans, people that have served the country, and they're living in cars, under bridges, under overpasses, it's ridiculous. We need to bend over backwards to do everything we can to help our vets. And we've been doing that, partnering with the VA.
Now, what about, being from Antioch here in Pittsburgh, we see it city after city, just these areas where it's just been, businesses have just left because of blight, some of it caused by homelessness and some of it caused by other factors. Where do you see the balance between county doing something and keeping local control? Because that's an important issue that we see right now, where the state's taking away control of what cities can and can't do. And, how do you see if elected as supervisor, maintaining that balance where cities still have the autonomy, but maybe some guidance or leadership, or just how do you see that playing in?
So I do believe in local control. I don't believe in the state taking control away from local governments such as the city or even the county. There are times that does happen, but we need to push with our state representatives to keep control local, where the city of Pittsburgh very much knows what is good for the city of Pittsburgh, but there are limits to that. If you are doing something that's affecting the overall makeup of the general area and it's spilling into other areas, then that's a problem. Recently, we saw that where there was a battle in the city of Pittsburgh over housing that's going to go in on the west end of the city. And there's other cities west of Pittsburgh, Concord area, that are upset with what that development is going to do. So we have to take into account those and work with those other local governments, whether it be working with the Board of Supervisors or working with the other city council members. When we talk about businesses not being in areas or leaving areas, it's my belief that Prop 47 had unintended consequences. Prop 47 was sold, in my opinion, to the voters where some voters truly didn't understand what they were signing off on. They didn't understand that we were going to be in an environment where you walk into a local store and you have all of your batteries locked up, where you have your Tide of all things locked up, where you have your hair products locked up, where you see somebody walking out the door with a shopping cart full of items saying, it's under $950, nothing you can do about it. We need to work with the DA's office to make sure those are prosecuted, but also at a local level, we need to work with the state legislature to ensure that that area of Prop 47 is either amended or repealed. These businesses, they can't continue this way. Look in the city of Pittsburgh alone. You've just lost Target and you've lost Joann Fabrics. Years ago, you lost Rayleigh's, and then you lost the store that was right behind Rayleigh's, the store that went in there. It's vacant, sitting up on Buchanan Road. So because of that, because of Prop 47, Target is the first one to say this theft was out of control. I don't know why Joann Fabrics left. I had reached out to them and I did not hear back from them. I don't know why they decided to leave, but I do know that I talk to small business owners throughout the county daily, and they're very upset with Prop 47. And think about it. How many times have you gone into a store and you've seen somebody walking out with literally a basket full of items and nobody is touching them? The store employees are told, don't touch them, don't stop them, let them walk out the door. Well, who's paying for that? You and I are paying for that. We're paying for that with higher prices. And people say, well, the store is insured. Of course. So what happens to the insurance rates? They go up. How do they pass those on? To the people that are actually paying at the register, they are realizing higher prices. So we need to work with our state to make sure that that area of Prop 47 is changed, in our DA's office to make sure that regardless of the theft amount, if it's a legitimate theft amount, and I'm not talking a stick of gum, I'm talking a legitimate theft amount, that folks are prosecuted. Because as long as we are not prosecuting people and holding people accountable for this, it's going to continue and it's going to get worse. What's next? You walk into these stores and you see all of these items locked up. What's coming after that? And so this is a very big problem.
And so how do you, and I realize when you say we, you're talking like county supervisor board.
Yes.
How does the county supervisor board interface with the state, and how do you see yourself bringing leadership to that process?
So I've been fortunate enough to develop relationships with the local leaders at state level. I call them, I've met with them in their offices, I've met with them for coffee, I've met with them for just sitting down and having a conversation. The local leaders are a liaison to those leaders to say, here's what we are experiencing here locally, and we need your help with drafting a bill or an amendment to a bill. Those are the types of things that we need to occur. And having strong relationships with our leaders at a state level is very important.
Now, being a business owner in Antioch, elected official in Antioch, some may fear that your priorities are just Antioch and having that myopic view. what about West Contra Costa County? So you got Port Costa,
Mhm.
Clyde, Rodeo. I mean, what is your understanding of their needs, and how do you see yourself being able to transition to make sure that everybody's getting attention?
Sure. So where I live and where I have a business has very little to do with that. I'm out in my district currently every day. If I'm in town, I'm in my district. I drive my district every day. If you go to my page, you'll find me driving the district sometimes at 2 o'clock in the morning, looking at encampment areas or crime that's occurring in areas and shopping centers, just driving the main thoroughfares, going into residential areas, going to local restaurants. And it's the same thing. Since I took over, or since I announced that I was going to be running for District 5, my wife and I have made it a point every day we are out hitting that district. I'm in Port Costa, I'm in Crockett, I'm in Rodeo, I'm at restaurants out there meeting the people, I'm in Hercules, Martinez, Concord, the north end of Concord area, Clyde, Pittsburgh. We make it a point every day to hit the district. Plan on seeing me in the city of Martinez or in the central area there, once elected, at least twice a week out in that area, and then branching out from there. This just isn't good. This is going to be different. This isn't going to be, well, I live here, so I'm going to stay in this area. This is putting some miles on the vehicle, going from area to area and getting to know people. And I've been fortunate in the time that I've spent running where every day I am out doing that. Tonight I'll be in West County. Tomorrow we have something in Central County. Every day we have something planned. That's not going to change once I get elected, and it hasn't changed once I got elected to City Council. I'm very seldom at City Hall. I'm always out in the district, meeting with people, meeting with business owners, talking with people, seeing people at local restaurants, Starbucks, etc. Tomorrow morning at 9:30, I had a resident reach out to me today that wants to meet. I'm meeting a local resident from the district tomorrow morning at 9:30 for coffee because I want to hear their concerns. So this is something that I'm already doing, and that's going to continue. And it's going to be a change for some of the residents that are going to see a county supervisor in their area on a very regular basis.
Awesome. So we've talked about unhoused populations, business, Prop 47. What, assuming you get elected, what does the first 90 days look like? What are your key initiatives that you have?
So one of my concerns is $172 million spent on unhoused residents or homeless within the last 4 years. I want an audit of that. I want to find out where that money has gone, how it's been spent. I also want to look at the Keller Canyon Mitigation Fund. And I want to be crystal clear about this. I'm not accusing anybody of doing anything wrong with that fund. But what I want to know is, where is it going? And are the groups that the money is going to, are they, their actions or them being in existence, a positive impact on the surrounding area? Where is that money going? So an audit of this is first and foremost. I want a very clear understanding of where this money is going. Motel 6, which is Delta Landing, the state spent $21 million, $21.5 million on that hotel. I want to know what the success rate is, but I don't want percentages. I want to know how many people have come in, where the money is being spent, how many people are successful, where they've gone, and what they use, what measurement they're using to determine success. You'll hear politicians often use percentages. If you hear a politician using a percentage but not backing it up with numbers, be suspicious of that. So I want to know, and that's going to be right as soon as we get into office, where myself and the staff, start looking at where has this money been spent. And then I want to go and meet with these organizations and find out what has occurred with it. I do want to meet with the organizations that have benefited from the Keller Canyon Mitigation Fund and find out, how are you using the money? Let's talk about that. What do you need in the future, or do they need anything in the future? Are there other organizations out there that could be using that money? So that's important to me to know that.
Great. So go ahead and I'll allow you final words, kind of
Sure.
give.
Well, real quick, I want to talk,
Sure.
some of the issues that I'm really concerned with, obviously homelessness or unhoused residents, public safety, and the blight in areas. So let's talk public safety. I'm 21-year Pittsburgh police officer, retired there as a lieutenant. My son works my old beat now in Pittsburgh. So I understand it very well. When I came to the city of Pittsburgh in 1985, the police department was a very different police department. There were a lot of issues, and that stemmed from a lot of bad hiring that had occurred prior to. I want to be crystal clear that I'm very supportive of law enforcement and the good men and women that are out there every day that are doing the job the right way. I'm not supportive or tolerant of dirty cops or bad cops. And let me give you an example. And this is not something I wear as a badge of honor. This is something over my career that I was involved in, and that's the prosecution of 8 dirty police officers for different crimes. And those ended up, for example, there were people that fought that didn't like that. When I became an acting bureau commander, the chief came to me and said, look, we want you to take over this bureau, but we know there are some problems that you're going to uncover, and it's going to be a rough ride. And he was right. It was. Even still, we moved forward and we did that. My right-hand person during that entire time was Brian Addington. At the time, I was a lieutenant and an acting bureau commander. He was a sergeant, and we went in and we took that bureau over. And did we get backlash? Absolutely. We even got sued. Matter of fact, with that suit, the judge reviewed that lawsuit and thought it was so ridiculous, it never saw the inside of a courtroom, and they threw it out. So that is something that we knew was going to happen, that we ended up, like I said, we said, hey, look, for the betterment of the city, for the betterment of the agency, let's just bear down, and we're going to have to move forward with this and do this. So we did, and there were a lot of ruffled feathers, and there still are people that unfortunately support, for example, we found officers, prosecuted officers that were falsifying police reports. And what ended up happening? We ended up getting sued over it. The judge threw it out right away and said, ridiculous. And there's still some people with hurt feelings over that. Well, that's too bad if you have hurt feelings over a dirty cop. Too bad. We don't apologize at all, and I certainly don't apologize for holding law enforcement accountable. And I want to be crystal clear. Again, I support law enforcement and the good men and women that are out there every day in law enforcement, risking themselves and their lives to do this. What I don't support are dirty cops and people that support dirty cops. And you'll see them out there. You'll see them on the internet. You'll see them. You'll hear from them. But 8 cops, 7 of which were from the city of Pittsburgh. And they ranged from everything from 2 for murder, 2 for falsifying police reports, stealing, spousal abuse. You lose track. There's 7 total. So, and then the 8th one was an outside agency. I don't wear that as a badge of honor that, yeah, I prosecuted cops. But what I do tell you is I don't tolerate dirty cops and dirty law enforcement. Do it the right way. Do things the right way. If not, you will be held accountable. And we all need to get behind the good men and women that are out there every single day doing this job. So I very much understand law enforcement, and I don't tolerate or have any time in the world for the trolls or the people that are out there supporting bad law enforcement. So let's all get behind law enforcement. And then blight. If you drive down the street, you see, I've already talked about homeless, but you also see the blight that's throughout our neighborhoods, the dumping on the streets. When I went to the city of Antioch, first thing I did was I said I'd like an audit to see code enforcement. I want to know how many calls that they handle every year, how many people we have in code enforcement that are actually out there working. And when I got all those numbers, I immediately set a goal to increase the size of code enforcement. I figured, we had 7 at the time. I figured, maybe I'll get 2, 3, maybe 4. So what did I do? I shot high after it. I said I want to double the size of code enforcement. And I spoke about it in open meetings that I wanted to double the size, and we accomplished it. We were able to double the size of code enforcement. Now, it's an uphill battle. Hiring people is very difficult right now for everybody, for all agencies. You see shortages all over in different employment, but we're continuing to hire those folks, and we can do the same at a county level. We need to up our staffing levels for those people that are out there cleaning these places up and making sure that we have clean, secure places to live. We did it over there. We doubled the size of it. We're still growing the unit, and we can do that at a county level. Those are the three things that I'm truly going to be really focused on. And I hope that the public gets behind that. And I truly hope we've seen a tide turning where you see law enforcement now truly being supported. Over the last few years, they've taken a very bad hit, and a lot of people got out of law enforcement. So what I ask of you is that when you see a good cop out there, thank them. Tell them we appreciate what you're out here doing. It's important and it means a lot to them. I'm a supporter. I'm a supporter of developing programs for homeless to get homeless off the street and into long-term housing. And I'm a supporter of getting blight off the street. And if we need to increase the numbers of people that are out there doing that work, so be it. Then that's what we need to do. I hope in March that I've earned your vote. And my name is Mike Barbanica. If you want to learn more about me, go to mikebarbanica.com. You can click on our website. We also have a Facebook page, all sorts of social media. And feel free to reach out at any time if you have any questions or any suggestions.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. I love hearing each candidate's, there's obviously some similarities in things, but each person has their own expertise that they bring to it. And your experience in law enforcement and as a business owner, I think, is definitely a lens that the county could benefit from. Again, March 5th is the election date. You should already have your ballots in the mail. I got mine a couple days ago, so make sure you fill those out. We've interviewed Jelani Killings before. You've now heard from Mike Barbanica. Later on this afternoon, you'll hear from Chanel Preston Scales. But go to their websites, learn more about them, rewatch this video. We're very happy to provide this as a service of the chamber so that people have an actual opportunity to hear from the candidates and not just little sound bites. But hopefully you've been able to learn a little bit more about Mike and his career and how that could help him as a county supervisor if elected. So thank you very much and have a great day.
Real quick, I just wanted to thank the Pittsburg Chamber and Wolf for putting this on. This was a great idea, and I appreciate the call.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for coming.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.